Pass the Vazul, baby.
Come on in.
Well, hello, Screamers! Welcome to the Scream Until You Like It podcast. I hope you're still screaming. Hope you're starting to like it. I am Clint Zorro, which is a reference to the movie that we're talking about today. And with me is Dr. Mikenstein, a.k.a. Evil Mike. We are talking today about Frankenhooker from 1990. How's it going, Mike?
How's it going? Going good.
Yeah.
Excited to talk about some Frankenhooker.
Yeah, well, you know what? This was your idea, but it's a good idea because we did Frankenstein a few weeks back, and why not do Frankenhooker?
We're keeping up with the theme.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this is that I feel like there's a remarkable number of parallels between the Frankenstein movie and Frankenhooker. Oh, they are strikingly different stories. You know what I mean?
No, 100%.
Yeah. So, so of course this was what Frank Henenlotter did this movie. Did you hear the story about how this came to be?
No.
Okay. Well, Frank has spoken about it in interviews and so forth, and I was watching some of that. Like he'll do like panels at cons and stuff like that, and I think it's actually in the trivia, like kind of cursory on IMDb. But apparently, he had already done Basket Case by this time.
Yes.
And he had written a couple of other movies. Another one of those being Basket Case 2. And he had this movie that he was trying to sell to a studio. I think it was called Insect City. I don't really know anything about it other than the title. And he had managed to get a pitch meeting with a pretty important, I don't know, I'll call him an executive, even though he probably wasn't, to pitch Insect City. And a guy listened to him and he's like, yeah, I don't think we want to make a film like that. He's like, you got anything else you want to talk about? And like, I guess he talked about Basket Case 2. And because he felt like he needed to have something else, he just started like spouting off this general idea and basically just the skeletal like structure of Frankenhooker. And like the guy was captivated by what he was saying. And he just kept making up more things while he was in the office talking to this guy. And the guy would ask questions, that seemed like legitimate questions. And he was like, well, how am I going to answer that? And that would spark an idea for another, scenario or plot point of the movie. And he like laid out almost the entire idea, like front to back of this movie, minus a few things. And the guy's like, that sounds great. What do you call it? And like he like cycled through like a couple of different names, Franken prostitute, Franken whatever, and then he just settled on Frankenhooker and he just blurted that out. And the guy was like, that's wonderful. He's like, I'm interested. And
who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
Fucking
So
Frankenhooker, man.
So I guess, Frank says to him, he's like, well, what do you think you want to make? You want to make Frankenhooker or Basket Case 2? And the guy's like, why not both? And so that's why Frankenhooker and Basket Case 2 came out in the same year, 1990.
Yes, that I did read.
And they filmed them back to back. So like
back.
they filmed Frankenhooker first, all the principal photography of that, had like a 3-week break, and then they filmed Basket Case 2. So I was like, that is freaking crazy. And this is one of the movies that Frank Henenlotter is best known for. And I just have to say, we're going to crack into this thing. Anybody who's watching this right now, and I'm going to say something that I haven't said in a long time. We're going to spoil the shit out of this. So if you haven't seen this movie, please go do that and come back later.
Yes.
Turn it off!
So how familiar are you with Frank Henenlotter's work?
Familiar with it? Not
Yeah.
really a fan.
Okay.
I am not a fan of Basket Case.
Okay.
And I don't think I ever saw Basket Case 2 because I didn't like Basket Case 1. So
Yeah.
I actually did it when I first saw this movie. I didn't know it was from him.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a good thing I didn't because I might not have watched it.
Yeah. When did you first see this movie? If you can remember.
Late. Maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay.
I remember seeing it as a joke, and I didn't really put much stock in it. More, maybe a few years ago when I really watched it, and I cracked up at it, and I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, now it's one of my, like I said, I have the Blu-ray. It's.
Yeah.
I even have my Patty Mullen autograph.
Aw.
To
She's
Mike,
actually really cool.
she is. I made her write to Mike. You can tighten my bolts anytime. She's like, "That's awesome. I will definitely write that."
Yeah. Yeah, she seems like a riot. I've seen her in interviews, and like that accent that she does in the movie is not put on.
No.
That's like really how she talks. Like, because I guess originally she's a Jersey girl, and she like moved down to Florida. But like
she is.
The way she talks never left her. Like I've seen interviews with her recently where like she's exactly the same, which is funny. You can take the girl out of New Jersey, but you can't take the New Jersey out of the girl. So,
that's right.
And that's great. I love that. So yeah, I am not super familiar with Frank's work either. This is the only other movie other than the Basket Case of his that I've seen. I would like to watch Brain Damage at some point. I think that might be fun.
Yes, that I've seen. That's not.
I've seen
that's
that?
a good movie.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think I'm gonna explore a little bit more of his work after this because that sounds like a heck of a lot of fun. Because like his movie ideas are always just bonkers. And they are
Brain Damage is a fun movie. We should watch that together.
They are over the top. They do a lot of like practical effects, that just look freaking crazy. And it's always an over the top idea. It's always like something that's really crazy. And there's a bit of that appeals to me. So where do we want to start with this thing? We want to start with the opening scene?
Yeah, we open up and the opening scene is I forgot his name already.
Oh, do you want me to name some of the stars?
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I don't know where I did the sheet. I had
okay.
I have all the sheets but that one. I don't know if I left it at work.
Yeah, there's a bunch of names in this thing, but I'll name just a few that we see on screen, like recurring, like James Lawrence, Patty Mullen. We also have Joseph Gonzalez, who is Zorro. Yep, and of course, there's all the various prostitutes. I don't think we're going to name all of them because we don't see them very much. They're just there to advance the story a little bit. We got Joanne Ritchie, we got J.J. Clark, and C.K. Steffel. Okay, so you got some newscasters, you got a weatherman, you know what I mean. there was some good talent in this movie. It's like I don't think that there was anything that I didn't like the performance from. You know what I mean?
No.
So we kind of opened this up where it looks like they're preparing for like a birthday party. And you've got like Jeffrey sitting at like the kitchen table, like screwing around with some crazy looking project that he has. It more or less looks like a brain that has an eye growing in it, connected up to like some electrical wires and things like that. And he's goofing around with it, poking it and jamming stuff into its head like a scalp, it's brain matter like a scalpel or something like that, because he's trying to get it to work better.
And that was a homage to The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Yeah.
The 60s movie.
Okay.
Didn't we just watch that? No, we watched The Head That Wouldn't Die, right? Something like that.
We watched the Brain That Wouldn't Die. Which of course was that movie with the car accident where the crazy surgeon like wrecked a car, knocked his girlfriend's head off, the car caught fire, he kept the head, and then like hooked it all up to some stuff to like keep it alive. Well, he went out and tried to find a suitable body to replace hers, and of course he goes out and he's looking for like really attractive women with really great bodies. So it's like you could tell, and I think Frank actually admitted it, that this movie was inspired by that. And I feel like this movie,
they say it.
Yeah, this movie answers the question, what would happen if he had actually gone through with his plan and was successful,
Right. Definitely.
So this movie is kind of almost like a continuation of that story, because
without a doubt,
not to spoil that old movie, but things didn't go well, and he didn't actually get to kill that woman and go through with his plan. This one is a little different,
right?
So yeah, he's screwing around the table, messing around with his brain thing, and they did focus quite a bit on like points, sections of the brain, like that you can manipulate in order to get a certain result. That's
individual
actually
lobes.
Yeah. That's like or like a neuron center or something like that, where that's recurring throughout like the first half of this movie. Somebody's mom comes in, I guess his girlfriend's mom comes in, and it's like, hey, I need this table for potato salad or something like that. Coleslaw.
Well, the fact that he's sitting in a kitchen
it's
with
somebody
a brain
else's
in
house.
a jar, and nobody finds it weird or out of the ordinary. And it's like, I need the salad. I need the table for potato salad. Can you move your brain? you know.
So nice salad.
Good idea. I need this table to make my coleslaw.
Yeah, and of course, Patty Mullen's character, which I find it funny that she's Elizabeth Shelley. So we got Jeffrey Franken, we got Elizabeth Shelley. So I mean, all of these are callbacks to Frankenstein, which I think is really cool. She's outside prepping for the party and mingling with guests, and she's talking to a friend, and you could tell that they clearly put her in a fat suit for this scene. But so we get a lot of exposition in this scene. We get her talking about, she's too fat, and she's tried all these different diets, vegetable diet, this diet, that diet. She even let Jeffrey staple her stomach, which was crazy. And then her girlfriend's like, well, he's not a doctor. And she's like, well, he calls himself like a bioelectrical engineer.
Yeah.
She's like, doesn't he work for the electric company? He's like, yeah. She said something about medical school, and she's like, he's been kicked out of like 4 of those. And she's like, why would you let him operate on you? She's like, we're going to be married. Of course I'm going to let him do that. And I'm like, okay. So like, he seems like a real moody guy who things aren't going super well for him. And his experiments aren't working. He's not happy about much in life. He doesn't even really seem to be interested in his girlfriend, Elizabeth, from my impression of the first scene. And then there's like, you find out that this is her father's birthday party, and they're all over there celebrating that. And suddenly she unveils his gift, constructed by Jeffrey, which is a remote control lawnmower. And suddenly he kind of starts to wake up out of his, self-absorbed state, and his self-loathing or whatever it is he's doing over there, brooding. And she's explaining how the thing works. He's like, yeah, well, you don't want to stand in front of it.
Don't stand in front of it.
And this controls the speed and the direction. So when you want it to go, you just press this.
You're on UHF. Don't stand in front of it.
And that's pretty well the quickest setup that I can imagine, tied up all neat in this first little scene. So I think the first scene is really freaking great. It's ridiculous. It's kind of funny. And it tells us just about everything we need to know about the two most important characters of this movie. What do you think about it?
Well, that's right out of the gate. I mean, from the brain on the table to that scene with the lawnmower, and it's ridiculous. And you right off the bat know what kind of movie you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but like I said, I think it was done well.
And then, of course, we just launched directly into where he's at now. He's like doing a big drawing, a full body drawing. Looks like you took like a human being and took all their skin off. So it's like a musculoskeletal drawing. And he's making notes on it. He's doing bullshit calculations. They're just throwing out like these math things, and he's drawing like little electrical symbols on it. And he's tossing out, electrical jargon. It's like they didn't want to give you any real science in this. They just wanted to throw out, a few things that sounded good and give you a little bit of science jargon and just move on with the story, which is fine. I was actually fine with all of that, even though I could nitpick some of it. And because I was just enjoying this story.
It seems like he should have been doing so much more with it, with his knowledge than,
Yeah. His guilt and his grief were motivating him to basically be working on this project, which we very quickly found out, was him trying to come up with a plan to rebuild her. And the news broadcast to me was hilarious. They talked about the tragic lawnmower accident, and they interviewed like the cop, and he was, that must have been Helmar Augustus Cooper. I didn't mention his name, Detective Anderson. They interviewed him, and he's like, well, it's a mess. There might be some parts missing. It's just like a big jigsaw puzzle now. And then they tried to interview like Jeffrey. He opened his door, and like no one would ever do that. Ask him how he's feeling, like the day his girlfriend died, you know what I mean? And asking him about the missing head. Oh, the only thing I remember was it just like hurling through the air. He's like, I don't want to have to. Hey, can't you just leave people alone in their grief?
It is the way it was done. It's like I said, it was just one hysterical scene after another.
I was dying at this point. This is great. So his mom comes in, she's all worried about him, and he's trying to be nice. You can tell he's irritated that she's there. But she looks at this aquarium that's got that brain in it with the eyeball, and she's like, oh man, he's looking really good. What is it? And he's like, I don't know.
Not the fact that you have a fucking brain in a fucking fish tank.
Yeah.
But it's looking really good.
And I felt that was a really cool mechanic to show everybody that he was so focused that his experiments improved. Like he really seemed to figure out what made life work. And that was a silly mechanic to do that because we have no idea what this fucking brain is. I mean, I feel like I said it when we were talking about this movie before watching it, that it looked like he was growing Krang from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
and but just like one eye and no like little arms or anything like that. But but that's what it reminded me of. To show you where my brain goes back to the Ninja Turtles cartoon. But like she tells him, well, don't stay up all night. He's like, I won't. And then he went to have dinner with Elizabeth's head. So
that's hysterical. He gets dressed, he sets the whole table, and he just has the fucking head on the table.
Yeah. Pours a little wine in her mouth, you know.
Oh my god.
He's eating a slice of pizza. and he's talking to her about how, you know, in a couple of days he's gonna bring it all together. He's gonna make it all up to her. He's gonna give her the body that the body of a goddess, you know, like. And he starts showing her like all these things that clearly came out of like porn mags, you know, like you know, women with their tits out, you know, with her face like taped on top of it. And he's like, hey, how do you like this body? Imagine yourself, you know, kneeling on Ma's couch in the basement, you know.
All those drawings and oh my god.
Oh, it's like, so it's like, I feel two things at the same time here. It's like, I feel bad for the guy, you know, for accidentally killing his girlfriend with one of his creations, you know, and then he feels all this guilt and a desire to do something about it, you know, but at the same time, it's a self-serving thing because I don't think that her character really wanted to be somebody else. He's the one who wanted that. And that's why he's doing all of this. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to convince himself that somebody else has to die in order for her to come back. And he does all that weird shit, like trying to like brainstorm and also make himself not care about what he has to do. And they did, in my opinion, one of the craziest things of all. And that was, he takes a drill and like dumps a bunch of like first of all, like who the hell keeps their drill bits in their bowling bag? That was ridiculous. Like he dumped out a bowling bag, there's all these drill bits, he's like looking for the right size and he like sticks it into like a drill while he's talking about this. And I'm like, what's he gonna do with, he's gonna go kill somebody with the drill, you know? Which is immediately what I thought, but no, he sticks it into the side of his own head, you know, after he decides what neuron cluster he needs to stimulate. He's like, oh, 22, you know.
But meanwhile, he didn't clean the drill after it came out of that dirty bowling ball bag.
Yeah, no.
It's like, let's just drill into my head.
He's like working it in and out, you know. And he's like talking about, oh, I could pick up some stewardesses at the airport, you know. And he's like, he's good.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. And trying to work out how he's going to get a new body. And then I don't know if it's the first time or the second time he used the drill, but he's like, he has this epiphany. He's like, you know, it's like, I could just buy body parts. He's like, I just go right across the river, you know, and there's thousands of women just dying to sell their body parts, you know. So that's, of course, when he's like, I just need money. And he's like, well, I do have my Christmas club.
My club. I remember, like, you know, like, I remember, like, my grandmother when I was a kid said, oh, I have my Christmas club. I'm like, right? And he says this, he said something like this, there's plenty of girls across the river.
Yeah.
When those Jersey boys come to New York.
They don't know what they're in for, right? So, in your opinion, when he went across the river, since you're a New York guy, how good did the New York scenes look?
Oh, magical.
Did it look pretty accurate?
That's what I remember, man. And I read where the area they filmed is like Tribeca now.
Okay.
Which is nothing like it was in the movie. I mean, It was back then. I mean, like I remember New York, Manhattan, a whole different time. You know, 42nd to Triple X shows, like when it was fucking, you know, I don't care what you say. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, well, Frank apparently must have spent a lot of time there, because he said that a lot of his influences, in what he likes in film, came from 42nd Street.
Right.
Like, so there was all those theaters there. They're playing all these movies, and he like loved all of them. He said he watched a ton of exploitation films on 42nd Street, and he was actually, really excited when he was able to get some of his movies playing on 42nd Street. And strangely enough, this one never played there.
Really?
And you think that this would have been the one that everybody pushed for to get there, because it was
Exactly,
basically it was made for that. But anyhow, so the prostitute scene looked legit.
Oh, I remember when me and my friend, we were just old enough to start venturing into the city.
Uh-huh.
And they were just walking around. It was a beautiful thing. So they fucking cleaned it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do find it interesting to note that there was a good bit of this stuff that was filmed like on location in New York. And of course, you know how difficult it is to get permitting in New York to film something. So, of course, they're doing like guerrilla type filming. They're just like running up to an area where they want to shoot. They'll get the actors where they want them to be. They'll basically shoot the scene and then just like take off. You know what I mean? So one of the ones that I know specifically was done like that was the scene where she's walking out of the subway. But I have to wonder, did they also do it with like the hooker scene, and maybe one or two of the other ones, like outside the club and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, he goes in there. He stops and talks to a prostitute. Says a couple of the right things about having money. She flashes her tits at him, and he's like, well, I need a couple of girls. And so she calls somebody else over. She tries to get into his car and everything.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm not ready. And she's like, oh, Jersey Boy wants a twosome, and he's like, no, I'm gonna need more than that,
But it's funny because when we were younger, my two friends went, and that was their intention. And they were, like I said, never done this before. And and one of my friends, he was so nervous that he pulled up, and when the girl came to the car, he got scared shit. He just drove off.
Have you seen this boy?
And my other friends. Said, it's like, the fucking dick just drove off. He goes, that's what we went there for. And he fucking drove off. He goes, I don't know what I was thinking, man.
Yeah. He freaked out. He didn't know what to say, so he just drove away.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking great. So another great scene. It's like this is one of those things that I feel about this movie. It's like they didn't give you a whole bunch of wasted shit.
No.
You know what I mean? They gave you just enough of something, to tell you what was going on, made it funny, and they basically moved on. So like there was a clear progression of this movie. It all made sense. I was laughing the whole way. And so like he lets her know that, no, he wants more than two, it's he's gonna need like 6 or 7, and he's throwing a party, for a friend. He's sick, I thought, we could put on like a fashion show, and they're like, oh yeah, you get the winner then, right? Is that how it works? He's well, I'll make a new woman out of her, toss it in like little jokes like that. So they take him to see their pimp, good old Zorro. They go into the what the hell was it called? The Huevos Grande. Which,
yes.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, with what little Spanish I know, I think that means big eggs.
That is Small eggs, I guess, right?
Which is a hilarious name for a club or a seedy looking bar. And man, is this place a shithole. They walk him right into a bathroom. You know, you got people having sex at a stall. You know, Zorro's making a drug deal, and he gets this introduction saying hilarious stuff the whole time. And you get like this big buff dude. You know, Zorro is like this bodybuilder type, you know, pimp. You know, is wearing, you know, gold chains with like a Z on it and shit like that. And he makes
Zorro,
a drug deal right in front of him. Dude
Yeah.
like hands money to him, and he like whips out a bag and hands it to the guy. And they were talking about the girls. You know, they're gonna make a deal, you know, to have a meeting where he can like pick out of these girls. And he's like, hey, just out of curiosity, what does one of those little bags cost? You know, and he like pulls one out. He's like, one of these? He's like, yeah. And so like he buys a bag of crack and takes it home. And he's sitting there, you know, trying to like make these drugs more powerful, watching a program on TV where a woman is on like one of those like shitty talk shows. You know, it almost felt like a Morton Downey Jr.
Well,
type show.
I think it says on IMDb, it was like a mock. It was like a tribute to almost. It was like a mockery of Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah. Or like the Phil Donahue show
Yeah.
or some ridiculous thing like that, or whatever other ones there were at the time. And like, or because this was all before Jerry Springer. So like they were, it felt a lot like one of those older ones. And that guy was being a dick to the person who was on the show. And she was talking about needing to protect women who like are drug addicted, and they're like backed into a corner with the only occupations they can have, and that's of course prostitution. She talks about, you know, saying we could make that legal, and he's like, oh yeah, and and that'll just fix all the problems overnight, won't it? And she goes, no, but it's a start. And he's like, oh, what's next? You know, we give them free condoms, you know, or we the government can rent them hotel rooms and the taxpayer pays for it, you know. And he's sitting there watching this, and he goes,
Don't laugh. She's right. This crack shit's killing him.
as he's sitting there making a big batch of killer crack. Like the whole scene is absolutely ridiculous. And he struggles with what he's going to do. He's feeling like he can't go through with it, and so he drills his head again in a different spot.
When in doubt, drill your head.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, I'm not killing him. He's like, I'm not shooting anybody. I'm not stabbing anybody. He's like, I'm just taking a bag of killer crack and sitting in front of them. You know, they don't have to take it. You know,
Right.
It's completely their choice. And then, like the worst part of this scene is he wants to test it, and he puts like the big jar of it on a hot plate and routes it into an aquarium with a guinea pig. He's sitting there talking to the guinea pig. Oh, you know, how much is it? You know, he's like, where can we go? Is that in walking distance? He's like, oh, those are $1,000 moves. He's like, if you weren't a guinea pig, I'd crawl in there with you right now, you know. And he's like, take a deep breath. No, fucking thing explodes inside the aquarium. You know, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, this does not let its foot off the gas pedal.
No.
Like, I feel like it just keeps going and getting more insane and more insane as we go. And he hasn't even looked at the girls yet.
No.
You know, so that's the very next scene. How do you feel about that scene?
Oh, it's a great scene. I mean, how could you not like that scene?
What do you want to say about it?
It's. I mean, you got great looking chicks, but it's hysterical how like he's not even looking at it that way. Like I have all these hot chicks around me. He's looking for that perfect. Like he's hit the one girl's ass and he puts a check mark
on it.
It's like,
and we get that later. We see the check mark.
Yes. It's hysterical the way he's just going analyzing, measuring all the parts and everything. Like, like getting laid is like the furthest thing from his mind.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a nerd here for a second, and I'm gonna nitpick something he said in that scene. He was measuring the chick's thigh, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's a perfect 18 diameter, you know, but he's measuring the circumference of her leg.
That's right. That is a nitpick. But you figure for somebody smart enough to drill holes in his own head,
yeah, and
he
not
would know
kill
the
himself.
difference between circumference and diameter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's sitting there doing all this bullshit math while he's there. Oh, multiply by pi, and like stop.
Oh my god.
So he does, yeah. So he's checking all the chicks. He says he can't decide. They're getting all pissed off at him. You know, like, you got to make a choice. You know, it's like, conscious. It's been 20 minutes.
Yeah.
A conflict with himself. He's like, I can't go through it. I can't do it. You know, and then they're like, no, you got to pick. And it's like he starts getting pissed off at him. You know, and they're like, hey, we want. Are we getting paid? We want. And he's like, oh, what? All you want is money. Like, he just throws his bag at him. He's like, take the money. You know, and so they go through it. And they pull the money out, but then like they see the big bag of crack in it, pull it out, and they just start losing their fucking minds over this thing.
They're like, now it's a party.
Like, he's like, no. It's like that's meant for the winner, you know. But it's like this huge bag. It looks like a bag of ice.
Yeah,
it's so fucking big.
Whoa! Holy shit! What's this? Holy shit! It's jumped! It's super jumped! Holy shit! Look at you!
And like they just like tackle him to the bed and like sit on him, and he can't do anything. And they start smoking it. No, don't smoke it. That stuff will kill you, you know. And like they turn on some music, and he's like, "Not the devil's music."
The whole thing, yeah, that's the devil's music.
And then two of the chicks like take their shirts off and they start making out on the bed. He's like, no, don't do that. That's not natural. He's like, your bodies weren't made to do that.
Like, of all the shit he's doing and has going on, it's like those are the things that are upsetting him.
Yeah. Oh my god, this scene was so great.
It was.
And then they just
start
one at a time. They start exploding. And those effects looked great. Like you could tell they were blowing up mannequins and stuff, but they did like the editing so artfully, like you could just barely tell for like a split second that okay, they clearly switched to a dummy and blew it up. But like the edit on that was really tight, and it's like they had the girls like move into the right position of whatever mannequin they were going to use, and then you'd have that quick cut, you know, and like it would just blow up.
Yeah, it was definitely done well.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll fix all of you.
Yeah. He's like, yeah. And I love like Zorro got all pissed off. He's down in the lobby. The bitch has lied to me. And he like breaks that thing with his fist, goes running up the stairs, stomping it, you know. And he tries to get in the room. It's locked, so he like tries to break it down. And there's this chick getting ready to stab him, and like she blows up like right before she gets a chance to stab him. And this is right as Zorro knocks the door down. And he just picks up all the body parts as he's apologizing. He's like, oh, girls, I'm really sorry. He's like, oh, I'll fix all of you. Oh, you're going to need a new shoe. And,
yeah, I'll fix all of you.
He's like,
I'm gonna need some garbage bags.
Yeah, he's like, I got this estrogen-based serum back at my lab. It'll make you feel like little girls again. But he's like, but I gotta fix Elizabeth first, because that's the whole point of this. And even that ridiculous scene, like getting all the bodies back to his lab, to the garage, he's in there like picking through the body parts. He's like examining the boobs, he's trying to find the perfect legs out of this barrel, pulls a foot out. How the hell did that get in there? And throws it, It's like there was a lot of like physical comedy in this movie.
Yeah.
Get the final piece, which is Elizabeth's head, out of that freezer that he has that's got like the bath stuff in it to keep her head looking good and preserved. That must have like this estrogen serum shit in it because it's all purple.
Yeah. And that's where he throws all the spare body parts too.
Yeah. Throws them all in there, all the stuff he's not using. And he did all of this to line up with a storm, a big lightning storm that's happening this night, because he spent a bunch of time in the beginning of the movie talking about how much voltage he would need, to like bring it back to life. And this was the part that was very much like Frankenstein.
This is where you get all the
like
all the Frankenstein stuff.
Even had the ceiling open up, like the roof just hatches open like this.
It's a garage, and he's got like this fucking hatch in the ceiling, and
yeah, I know. And he pulls this big lever, and I was like, okay, that's a bit much, Like, why doesn't he just have like a winch, like to pull her up, and he just hits a little pendant that's hanging down from the ceiling? No, he has to have the lever, and like she rises up. He pulls it off. He's like, Elizabeth? And for some reason, she has taken on the personalities of all the prostitutes that make up her body.
Want a date? Going out? Looking for some action? Need some company?
It's funny. I read that everything she said was said by one of the other hookers.
Yes, I did catch that, because like from the street scene or from
anywhere, but she took on a little personality from every one of those hookers.
Yeah, and that was really cool to see.
Yeah,
and he's like trying to talk to her, and she goes,
"Got any money?"
Money? No, I don't have any money.
And takes off running down the street, and that's about when you get that whole quirky thing she did with her face, which I think the director told her to do. It was a fantastic facial expression, and the way she did it was almost like she glitched.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then she just like turned and like walks off down the road and takes the subway. And whether
when
it's
she
like
came out of the subway and the Asian guys were there, and they're like, "Oh!"
She's just like shoving people left and right.
Yeah.
If they don't like take her up on her offer, she's like, "Want a date?" That guy's like, "No," and it's like she shoves him. Other guy is like, "Oh, hey, Purple, where'd you come from?" And
when she got that little guy, he was like, "Fucking yeah."
Yeah, he's just like, oh, starry eyed. He's like, yeah.
Have you found your perfect woman yet?
Oh yes, God, yes, take me, yes.
And I thought that was a cool scene, because like she actually went through with it. She took him up to a room and like took her clothes off. It's like she had like purple nipples and stuff.
Purple nipples.
And you could see like all the stitch marks where like you put
that's where you see
on.
the check
You
mark
see the
on
check
her
mark
ass.
on her ass. So she bangs this guy, and like I guess from the procedure of bringing her back to life, she had electricity stored inside
Residual
her.
electricity.
Yeah. She just like shocked this guy to death.
Fucking fries him.
Yeah, but she doesn't forget to take his money when she leaves. So she picks up his wallet, pulls the money out, just keeps walking.
Oh my god.
That's when she ends up in the Huevos Grande.
Huevos.
Yeah. And eating pretzels again, like she was in the beginning of the movie. And like some other dude like tries to like get with her and so forth. And I think Zorro realizes from the things that she's saying that it sounds like his girls.
She also has
the
Zorro tattoo.
Oh, the brand.
Yeah, she has the chick's arm.
That's right. And he's like, this isn't your arm. This is my this is my girl's arm. He's like, yeah, I'm repossessing it or something stupid like that. She like shoves him really hard, and like he's like, oh shit,
yeah,
this is getting serious. He just hauls back and just like, and I think this is around the time that Jeffrey finally figures out where she's at and like grabs her and like gets her in the car and starts driving her back to the lab. And Zorro's no dummy; he follows.
You don't get a name like Zorro for nothing.
Yeah. So he basically staples her neck back together, puts some bolts in her neck now, and somehow he's got enough power, enough juice there to like zap her back to life, and she's basically Elizabeth
again.
Yeah. And they're having this conversation. She realizes that she got killed by the lawnmower. And Zorro comes in and picks up what looks like a machete and just like chops Jeffrey's head right off. And but like all the body parts in the freezer are also alive.
They're like all morphed together.
Yeah, they start coming out looking like something out of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh shit, get the fuck away from me!
Well, you knew something was good because I think earlier, like they show like the freezer like bubbling, like and moving.
Yeah.
So like you knew something was gonna come out of there. And they came out, everything. It was fucking like foot on a head and fucking like a breast on a fucking face. It was like, it was fucking.
Yeah,
but he like gets a face resting on like a set of tits. It was like, even Zorro's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but all these like body parts like overwhelm him and pull his ass into the freezer, which I thought was great.
Yes.
So, and we get the final like twist of the movie. Jeffrey wakes up and Elizabeth is talking to him and about how much she loves him and that she brought him back, so that they can be together forever, and well, your serum was only estrogen based, so I had to work with the parts that I had, and like they just pull back and you see that like he's full woman now with like these like big breasts and he starts freaking out about it.
Holy shit! That's not my hand! What are these boobs? Elizabeth, what did you do to me?
I would have just ran in the shower and started playing with myself. I was just like, fuck it, might as well.
Yeah. He'll adjust eventually,
Yeah.
It's like they can have a very nice long lesbian relationship together. So
right.
Yeah. So and I didn't mean to talk about every single scene of this movie, but I mean, that is Frankenhooker in a nutshell.
Yeah, it was pretty quick though. Like you said, it was a fast-moving movie. Like it didn't get boring. It made you, everything made you crack up because like one scene just was more ridiculous than the next.
Any trivia or anything you want to throw out before we rate this thing?
Yeah, it wasn't much crazy trivia. I did not know this until I looked it up. Before getting into acting in 1987, Patty Mullen was a Penthouse Pet of the Month in August 1986.
I did hear that. But
guess who's going to go on eBay and get Penthouse from 1986?
So if you ever meet her again, she's going to sign it, right?
You know, and the last bit of info I have: Patty Mullins' first starring role, third role in her career. It also ended up being her last role for over 2 decades until she starred in Strange Toys, which was listed as being a post production in 2022. So yeah, she was like basically MIA.
Yeah. Yeah. I also heard that this movie flopped.
I was just gonna say that I have the
It cost $2.5 million, didn't it?
2.5 million, and it says box office 205,000.
Yeah, that's bad.
Like it almost like I didn't know if it was right, but it actually did not do well at all.
Yeah, the way I hear it is it got a very small theater release. So like if it had gotten a bigger theater release,
Oh
like,
yeah, well that makes. I mean,
might have done better, and it did way better on video. So like
big
when
time.
and like I didn't know this, but apparently like the movie boxes had like a press sensitive electronic device in it. You know, where like if you hit it, it was like the box would talk to you.
How great is that?
Yeah. So that would be cool to have. Like I kind of wish I had one of those right now.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, you got any final thoughts on this thing that you want to rate it?
It was fun as fuck. Like I said, I mean, going into this movie, I mean, look at the tagline: "A terrifying tale of sluts and bolts." I mean,
yeah, I know.
I mean, you're going into this movie. Like I said, 100%. You know what kind of movie you should be expecting, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It made you. It was ridiculous on all in all aspects, but it also made you crack up.
Yeah,
and it was fun. It was entertaining. It made me laugh. You know, so I mean, as I don't like, I'm looking at it as a comedy. It's 100% comedy, and as far as comedy, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, that's
because it's I do go back to this movie every now and then. It's definitely a rewatch movie because it's a lot. I just think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's a movie you could just turn your brain off and just watch and laugh.
Yeah,
and there's some good scenery in it too. Can't deny that too.
Yeah, I mean, this movie like struggled to get something lower than an X rating.
Yeah.
Like when they originally took this movie to the MPAA board. Apparently they came back to Frank Henenlotter and said, "Congratulations, you're the first movie to ever get an S rating." And he's like, "What's the S rating for? Like sex or something?" And they're like, "No, shit." And and like, so they had to work really hard to like tighten this movie up, you know, just to get the thing down to something where they could actually release it to get a rating.
Right?
Yeah. I wanted to mention one more thing. Like one of the things that I discovered about this movie, other people have talked about it, and I kind of picked up on it while I was watching it. And like there's like a pretty like feminist tone to this movie. Like this is even with the subject matter, this is actually kind of like a pro-woman movie.
I would say so, definitely.
Almost empowering, you know, and it's like it's in spite of what the men are doing. You know, they basically, you know, kind of have the last laugh. So it's like things I took out of it was like, you know, men created the problem, made it worse, falsely believed they controlled it, became surprised when it overcame them. And so like, and I went a little further to say, you know, Elizabeth like received parts from, you know, oppressed, enslaved women, took on their personalities and their pain, then used Jeffrey's own science and her love for him to emasculate him. You know, Zorro got killed by his own women. Like she literally gave Jeffrey a POV of what it's like to be a woman. I mean, it's poetic.
Yeah.
It ends with a type of poetic justice.
Yeah. I mean, I took the ending as not that she saved him because she loved him.
Uh-huh.
Because, I mean, she died and she was like, you know, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah.
So she's like, I think it was more like, you want to fuck around?
Kind of like revenge.
Yeah, it was almost, I felt like it was almost like, now you got fucking titties.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think it was more like her just kind of saying, you want to fuck around with people's bodies and they're, you know, and, you know, now you got a big pair of titties of your own.
It's perfect. It's perfect. That all of that actually made me like this movie more. So it may surprise you. No, the poetic, all of that, all of the things that we love about this movie as dudes, you know, like you know, the crazy science, you know, all the tits and it was just gratuitous like stuff, the explosions, all the things that we would gravitate towards, and then all of the like poetic justice, like feminist undertone of this thing just made me love it even more. And it may surprise you, I rated this movie higher than you.
Wow.
You gave it what, a 7.5?
And it would have probably been like a 7. I gave it an extra 0.5 for all the titties.
Yeah, well, I gave it 24 out of 30 to begin with, and then I gave it 2 wildcard points, you know, for those additional themes, you know, and all the eye candy and stuff, which gave me an 86%. It's an 8.6 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I was late to this movie. Like I've only like in this past month have I seen this movie for the first time.
It's fun as fuck, man. I don't care what anybody says. It's a fun fucking movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And I would definitely watch this again.
Like I said, I often go back to this movie because it's just, like I said, it's just ridiculous. And I like because it's, how do I explain it? It's not like stupid ridiculous. It's like the whole science stuff. They try like using like real science terminology, and so they use all this, but then he ends up drilling a hole in his own head. Like then they just, it's like
so stupid. All right, there you have it.
I can't see how anybody could put this on and not laugh and not.
I completely agree. Yeah,
I mean, if you watch it and you don't like it, ma fang bu.
Yes, sir. There you have it. There you have it. All right. Well, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Evil Mike, and on behalf of exploding prostitutes who just smoke killer crack, I say, remember.
Smile, you son of a...